So MMA Joey just uploaded this video titled Leon Edwards vs. Belal Muhammad 2 as UFC 300 main event has brought out the worst in MMA fans, and in this video he's going to dive into the idea of Leon Edwards and Belal Muhammad 2 being the next fight that is going to main event UFC 300. I have my opinions on that, and the fans definitely have their opinions on that, but I watched this video and I thought, because again, I watch MMA Joey quite regularly, he does have, while I disagree with him on a lot of things, his content is quite good, especially when it comes to quality. Like, there's a lot of really nice information when it comes from it, but I wanted to make this video, and I'd love to know what you guys think in the comment section down below. Afterwards, I wanted to react to it. Let's get to hear what he has to say in just a second. Before we do, though, I do want to say hello, everybody, and welcome back to another video. If you're new here, my name is Kyle. I am your guy with too many YouTube channels. Oh boy, let's get on to Leon Edwards versus Belal Muhammad 2.
Which I think at this point...
Oh, and I apologize. I forgot to mention that I'm going to start this video when he starts talking about Leon Edwards versus Belal, because, well, of course, we're 2 minutes in the video, but he was talking about Conor McGregor at the beginning.
It's true. It may change. I don't know, but I'm just going to at least assume Conor's not lying about the date at least. But who truly knows? But you have a lot of people now freaking out. Well, what's going to be the 300 main event? There's really no champs left, you know. John Jones is injured, and Tom Aspinall, who would he fight? And
yeah, the UFC's put them in a really tough spot for UFC 300, because all of the, especially the card before that, I think it's 299 or 298. I believe it's 299 though. The one with O'Malley, that's honestly like almost a 300 level type card.
You know, maybe it could be Alex Pereira versus Jamal Hill, and a lot of people are kind of freaking out about UFC 300. And you had Ariel Helwani, when he posted the Conor McGregor news, he also posted that Leon Edwards is suspected to defend his welterweight title at UFC 300.
And we know his manager also said that something along the lines, of course I'm paraphrasing, something along the lines of, Leon, we might need you for UFC 300, so stay ready.
Supposedly against Belal Muhammad, but maybe Shavkat Rakhmonov. Now, I don't believe Ariel's actually breaking any news here. I just think he's just, using, educated guess, basically. Everyone could say, oh, it's probably going to be Belal Muhammad, but it might be Shavkat Rakhmonov. There's really not a whole lot of other options for Leon Edwards.
Regardless of how I feel, and I'll say it right now, I do not like this fight, especially for a UFC 300 main event. It needs to happen, though. The fight with Leon versus Belal 2, Belal 110% deserves his title fight. This is the next fight to make. I just hate it as a UFC 300 main event. That's where I'm at with it.
Unless he's to go up to the middleweight division and fight the winner of Strickland versus Duplessis, which really wouldn't add up timeline-wise. But then you have a lot of people taking Ariel's tweet and saying, no, there's no way they could do Leon Edwards versus Belal Muhammad as a UFC 300 main event.
I agree with that, honestly, because whether or not don't get me wrong, I don't hate Belal Muhammad, and I do not like this fight at all. But this fight needs to happen, and I do hate this for a UFC 300 main event. The card could be absolutely fantastic, but at the end of the day, once Belal steps in there with Leon Edwards and the fight is 99% likely to be boring, everyone's going to be left with a bad taste in their mouth about UFC 300. Take a look at UFC 200. The card was fantastic. Amanda Nunes versus Miesha Tate was the main event. Then people remembered UFC 200 as a little bit of a stinker.
There's no way that could be the main event. Oh, that'd be a horrible UFC 300 main event. Let me just say this right now, and this is something I've been talking about in a couple other videos and some live streams. Leon Edwards versus Belal Muhammad is a straight-up banger fight. And I'm so tired of fans saying, oh, Belal Muhammad's boring.
He is boring, though. How many fights has Belal Muhammad really entertained people with? He managed to make a Gilbert Burns and a Vicente Luque fight boring. He managed to make Vicente Luque and Gilbert Burns boring. This dude is boring.
Belal Muhammad has earned his title shot. First off, he's not the most exciting fighter in the world. He's not a Justin Gaethje. He's not a, Khamzat Chimaev. But it's not like Belal Muhammad's going out there and putting on the most boring performances ever.
But that's exactly what's happening. I don't know what else to say to that. That's exactly what's happening. Besides the Sean Brady one, which is a once in a blue moon fight for Belal Muhammad. Like, I was a little bit shocked he got a TKO there.
He's not putting on a performance like Colby Covington against Leon Edwards, or like Colby Covington against Tyron Woodley, or Colby Covington against Jorge Masvidal. All this.
This is where Joey loses me a little bit, because this dude hates Colby so much. I don't think Colby Covington's a boring fighter at all. That fight with Leon Edwards was horrible. It really, really made me lose stock and hype for Colby Covington. Okay, I'll say that. But I've enjoyed Colby's last performances because he's always trying to get a submission. He's always trying to ground and pound you. He's always trying to wrestle you. He's always trying to smile at you. And he does strike, like whether or not people really want to admit that. He's a very exciting fighter in my opinion. Last fight was horrible, but this is where Joey loses at me because no matter what, he's going to, because of this, it seems to be, this is the case. Of course, I'm not in his brain. It seems to be that he's really invested in this Colby Covington versus Belal Muhammad type thing, and he is so on Belal's side. If they like, you know what I mean? Because Colby Covington makes fun of Belal. He's like, "Oh my God, I can't believe Colby Covington would say this about Belal Muhammad." Which I'm not saying it's right or wrong, but this guy's been, just because Belal Muhammad hates Colby and he speaks out against Colby, really always wants to punch Colby, wants to fight him in the street, Joey's on his side for it.
Those matchups that I just mentioned, or whatever other boring matchups you want to mention, he's not fighting like Rose Namajunas, Carlos Esparza 2.
That was boring.
He went out there and TKO'd Sean Brady in his last fight.
Wasn't Gilbert Burns his last fight? I could be wrong about that. I'm pretty sure it was Gilbert Burns, though. Regardless, it doesn't even matter. Yeah, but that's one fight out of his entire career, to be fair.
A 10-fight unbeaten streak. 4 of his last wins, all 4 welterweights currently ranked in the top 10 of the welterweight division.
He absolutely deserves the title fight.
And you have the same people that call him boring were cheerleading a Colby Covington title shot. The same people that call Belal boring.
Now, as a Colby Covington fan, I have said many times on this channel that I am a fan of Colby Covington, but he does not deserve this title fight. He should not be in this place. And I did not, I wouldn't want to say I didn't support it because I enjoy watching Colby, so I didn't really care. That's where I was at. But I'd be like, I was very vocal about Belal deserving it before him, clearly. And it's wrong that the UFC did that.
It makes absolutely no sense. And I've been one to say Belal deserves this title shot, so I'm not going to sit here and go over that again and again and again. But Belal deserves a title shot, okay? He is 100% the #1 contender in the welterweight division. He took the Gilbert Burns fight on short notice and 50-45 Gilbert Burns, or it should have been a 50-45. Meanwhile,
How about this? Gilbert Burns was completely injured and Belal couldn't finish him.
Burns was in shape and people excused that away and made excuses. Oh, Gilbert Burns was injured, blah, 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 and so on and so forth.
But that's a good excuse for it. Like, Gilbert Burns, he couldn't do anything. Literally anybody unranked in that division would have finished Gilbert Burns in that fight.
I don't care. Belal's on a 10-fight unbeaten streak. Now, people do talk about, when they say, oh, I don't want to see that as a UFC 300 main event, there's some people saying it doesn't even belong to be a pay-per-view main event, which is...
Yeah, that's tough. That's really tough. I think this should be a 2-title fight card, and this should be the co-main event. I wouldn't be mad if this was the main event of a pay-per-view, because again, it's the right fight to make for the UFC. I just hate it for UFC 300. I really hate it. This is not an exciting fight at all, and it probably will not be exciting.
Completely egregious. Completely egregious. Leon Edwards versus Belal Muhammad, regardless of where it takes place, that is a banger. A banger of a UFC pay-per-view main event.
But this is where I just don't get it, because what do I say to that? How can you rebut that? It's just like, no, it's not.
A banger. And you have people referencing a fight from damn near 3 years ago. 3 years ago, and saying Leon already beat him because Leon won the first round. By the way, I recently rewatched it. It was a very uneventful first round. Outside of 2 exchanges, Leon Edwards landed a really good head kick that kind of stumbled Belal, but he wasn't really hurt. And the reason I say he wasn't really hurt is because Leon followed up with a barrage, and Belal Muhammad got out of the way of every single shot. And then later in that round, or before that, I don't remember exactly the sequence, Leon landed 1 good punch. Now, Leon clearly won the first round, but it wasn't some blowout first round. And also, if you put that in context, well, that was almost 3 years ago. And it ended in a no contest in the second round because of an eye poke.
I mean, yeah, like with all of them saying this, it makes sense to be the next fight.
And we didn't get to see the second round really play out. So how is that indicative of what's going to happen in 2024? When Belal Muhammad has gotten significantly better, Leon Edwards has gotten significantly better.
But what happens is Leon Edwards coasts just a little bit better than his opponent, which Belal Muhammad's not going to do very much, and they're just going to do nothing for 5 rounds and get a decision.
And that fight ended in an eye poke. And if you want to say, oh, well, Leon won the first round, which I agree, I concede the fact that Leon won the first round. Well, let's just strip Leon and reinstate Kamaru Usman. Kamaru Usman won rounds 3 through 4. He won No, he won 2, 3, 4, and he was winning 5 up until the head kick KO from Leon Edwards.
Yeah, that's a stupid argument.
Forget about the head kick KO. Kamaru Usman was winning that fight. Especially when you look at the stylistic matchup and you see Belal Muhammad has a cardio advantage over Leon Edwards. That's what makes that fight so compelling. So to look back and say, oh, well, Leon won 1 round, an uneventful round, so that means a future fight 3 years later when both have evolved wouldn't be good, is absolute craziness to me.
What's crazy to me is the fact that you can think this is a good fight. Like, I don't understand. Yeah, you know what? They both got better, but Leon has had a lot of lackluster performances. Look at his last 2 fights, and look at every fight that Belal Muhammad has. Yeah, they've gotten better, but that doesn't mean the fight's going to be good. I'm having trouble even conceptualizing the idea that you think this fight could be a banger. Like not the fact that, like, you know what? Maybe every once in a while there's some sneaky good fights, but to have him going, this fight is a banger, and it's craziness that you don't think so. That's what I don't really get, man.
Is craziness to me. And then also you add the context that a lot of people forget. Leon Edwards was scheduled to fight Khamzat Chimaev on that date that he fought Belal Muhammad. Khamzat Chimaev fell out. Guess who took that fight on short notice? Belal Muhammad took that fight on short notice. So even if you want to concede the fact that Belal lost the first round, and then we didn't get to see a definitive ending because there was an eye poke, he took it on short notice, and it ended in the second round, and he got eye poked. So we didn't get to see the fight play out. And they've both improved rapidly since then. So this whole entire narrative that this rematch is unwarranted, that this rematch isn't compelling.
I don't think there's an argument that people are really making. Maybe some fans are, but the majority of people do think that Belal Muhammad does deserve the title fight. But people just don't want to see it. That's where everybody has the problem, right?
It's completely ridiculous. This is a super compelling matchup, especially when you go back and rewatch that first fight between Leon Edwards and Belal, and then you watch Leon Edwards versus Colby Covington, and then you watch Belal Muhammad versus Gilbert Burns and Belal Muhammad versus Sean Brady, all recent fights outside of obviously the one from a couple years ago that I just mentioned. It's a very compelling fight. It's a very, very compelling fight because Belal Muhammad will move forward and attempt to land shots, and he will eat a shot to land a shot. He will not allow Leon Edwards to dictate the pace like Colby Covington allowed Leon Edwards to dictate the pace. And I went back and rewatched Leon Edwards versus Colby Covington, even though it was a garbage fight, because Colby Covington, who got an undeserved title shot because he's a draw, which we'll get to in a second, didn't even go out and try to fight. He didn't even attempt to fight. What a disgraceful performance that was.
It was. But Colby Covington could have had the best performance in the entire world, and Joey would be saying the same thing.
But when I rewatched it, I couldn't believe what I saw. And I could not believe the missed opportunity of Colby Covington. When Colby Covington moved forward, he had some success. And also the fact that Leon Edwards dictated the pace for the majority of the fight and then was still gassed out in the 5th round showed me that had Colby actually attempted to put the pace on Leon Edwards, did he run the risk of getting meme KO'd? Yes, and I think that's what he was trying to avoid.
Possible.
But had he went out there and just not allow Leon Edwards to dictate the pace, it could have been a totally different fight.
Yeah, I have absolutely no idea what Colby was doing there. Really, like, that was a pitiful performance. Excuse my headphones there.
And that's why I think Belal Muhammad is a legitimate threat to Leon Edwards, and that makes that fight so compelling. You have Leon Edwards on this unbelievable unbeaten streak right now. I mean, he hasn't lost in so many years. Belal Muhammad, the same thing. So you're telling me you have a champion in Leon Edwards that dethroned Kamaru Usman and then beat him again, then beat Colby Covington pretty soundly, and you have Belal Muhammad, who's on this 10-fight unbeaten streak, who's beat the elite of the elite in the welterweight division on this long winning streak, got a nasty stoppage in his last fight against a guy in Sean Brady who looked incredible against Kelvin Gastelum. That isn't a matchup you guys want to see. In terms of skill for skill, and in terms of merit, and in terms of body of work, Leon Edwards versus Belal Muhammad is one of the top fights that I want to see for 2024.
That's insane to me. You could pick out so many fighters in that division and talk about skill for skill. I'd rather see probably literally any other matchup.
That is an amazing matchup, and stylistically, it's so compelling. It is so compelling because Belal Muhammad has a cardio advantage. Leon Edwards tends to get tired in the later rounds.
You weren't really excited for Colby Covington versus Leon Edwards, and you could say the exact same thing.
Made, mad excuses for him when he fought Kamaru Usman and he was gassed out in the 5th round. Oh, it's because it's Salt Lake City. But he ended up getting the KO anyway. I want to see that fight. And one of the main things that I've seen people do, and this is the most disgusting part of the fan base. And no, I'm not talking about the people who make these religious-esque jokes towards Belal Muhammad. I'm not talking about that. We're not even going to get into that in this video. Those people exist too, by the way. Get pissed about it. There is the people, and this literally drives me up a wall, that say, Leon Edwards versus Belal Muhammad? Who wants to see that? Belal's not a draw.
I feel like that's the majority of the MMA fan base, isn't it, though? Am I wrong? Honestly, please, let me know.
Belal's not going to sell pay-per-views. Well, that's why Colby skipped him, because Colby's a draw. I have one question for those idiots. And let me just be very clear. Those people are idiots.
I don't think that people are idiots for thinking that Colby Covington's a bigger draw than Belal Muhammad, or that Colby Covington should... No, I don't think he should skip Belal Muhammad, but it's just business, man. The fact that somebody's a bigger draw than another name, yeah, it's going to be easier for them to get a title shot. Do I think it's right? No, but do I think it's idiotic for people to think to support Colby Covington over Belal Muhammad? I don't think it's idiotic. I just think it's a little bit wrong. But yeah, that's kind of where I'm at with that.
Does the UFC cut you in on pay-per-view sales? I'm very curious. For everyone who says they don't want to see a fight because a fighter is not a draw, do you get a cut of pay-per-view sales?
No, but it matters, because if the UFC starts failing, then that directly affects my life. I legitimately enjoy watching fights every weekend. My family makes a big deal about it. Every single Saturday, we get together, we have some good food, we watch some fights. I want the UFC to succeed. I want the UFC to get bigger and bigger and have on better cards every single time. And to keep I'm not saying they do, but if they were to just go by have the Belals always get the title shots, then I should care about that, man. I care about this business.
I'm genuinely curious. Is the UFC cutting you a check based off how many pay-per-views sell for a certain pay-per-view, especially Leon Edwards' pay-per-view? Are you getting a cut of that? Because first off, and I've gone over this countless times, so I'm only going to spend 2 seconds on this. Colby Covington versus Jorge Masvidal did under 400,000 pay-per-view buys. The lowest of the low UFC pay-per-view does like 200K pay-per-view buys. So you're talking Leon Edwards, Belal Muhammad with a stacked card underneath of it maybe does more than Colby Covington does in terms of...
Yeah, I'm a little bit shocked by that, to be honest with you. Colby and Masvidal did that low of draws. I don't keep up with the actual numbers of pay-per-views, and I'm sure I've looked at it, but I don't remember. If it was that low, that's just surprising to me. That was a huge rivalry. It seemed like a huge fight, but maybe it was only for the hardcore fans.
The pay-per-view sales. Okay? Now, I'm not going to sit here where it's super speculative, but it doesn't matter anyway. And let me explain to you exactly what these fans want. And this is why I desperately, desperately want this to be the UFC 300 main event. These fans who complain about it every fight, even though it's a banger matchup, because, oh, they don't have a personality. Oh, they're not going to sell a lot of pay-per-views. The only thing these fans care about is attempting to shift the UFC into WWE.
I've heard Joey argue this stuff a lot. Like, he just doesn't like it. He pretty much hates on a lot of people who really, really like the press conference and stuff like that. Yeah, you know what? I am one of the biggest MMA fans out there. Like I mentioned on the channel, I regularly watch LFA, One Championship, Bellator, and UFC. All of them. I keep up with all of them. I am the biggest fight fan there is. So, like, just 2 guys and the thought about them having a matchup with no personalities, I'm totally okay with that. But it just makes it so much better when fighters do have their personalities. Sean Strickland, Israel Adesanya. I couldn't wait for that because of all the drama that they've had. Colby Covington versus Jorge Masvidal. There's drama there. It makes you more invested. It doesn't mean that I want to turn the sport into WWE. It's a lot of fun when people have trash talk. I don't understand, like, I don't get why you don't like it, though.
If you enjoy WWE, where title shots are handed out based on charisma and personality, go watch WWE. Worship Vince McMahon.
But then if the UFC always did that, the UFC would be in the position that the PFL is in. They'd be in the position that Bellator is in. They wouldn't be able to capture the mega fans that they have right now, and they wouldn't be able to put on these grand events. They wouldn't be the business that they are today if they didn't dive into the entertainment side of it. It's the entertainment business. It's the fight business. It's not all about what's right for the sport. It should be. That would be great. That would be great, honestly. But this is something you have to do, and I guarantee you, if Joey was in the position that whoever's in charge of the UFC, I know it's Dana White and a few other people, so if Joey was in charge of this and it was his money that he was losing, he'd be putting the Colby Covingtons there. He'd be worried about Belal Muhammad main eventing UFC 300. He'd be worried that fighters aren't making such a big fuss about a UFC event. The UFC needs it, especially with the part like that, the stage that they have. It's a must.
Stop ruining the sport of MMA where we want at least some semblance of meritocracy. Just some semblance. Just give me a little bit of meritocracy. It doesn't have to be unequivocal. These people want to turn the UFC into WWE even though they don't even get a cut of the pay-per-view. So I'm hoping for once, the biggest card of the year, on paper, UFC 300, it's 300, it has to be a huge card. I hope they book Leon Edwards versus Belal Muhammad as the main event. I hope they stack the card underneath of it as a massive FU to the WWE sycophants that are trying to ruin the sport. This is a better fight.
I can guarantee you I'm a bigger fan of MMA than MMA Joey is. I've been following it for well over a decade now. I've participated in it, and I want the entertainment side of it too. Like, I don't want it to be WWE. I just like to be entertained as well.
I think Conor McGregor versus Michael Chandler, I'll tell you that much right now. Conor McGregor's a dead body at this point. He's been out for 3 years looking at gay porn on Twitter, snorting coke and hanging out on his boat and taking women into public restrooms. Maybe consensually, maybe not. And we want Conor McGregor, who's now supposedly coming off of PEDs, versus Michael Chandler, who's been in the gym the entire time. I have no interest in even seeing Conor fight anymore. Maybe I'm in the minority.
You are definitely in the minority for that.
But I'll tell you right now, Leon Edwards versus Belal Muhammad 2 is a much better UFC 300 main event than any Conor McGregor fight. And guess what?
For the integrity of the sport, yeah. Yeah, if you want to go by the rankings, what matters for UFC, yeah, it's a better fight. But no matter what, Conor would bring in more eyes. No matter what, Conor would bring more excitement. I guarantee I'd be feeling a lot more excited to watch Conor McGregor fight than Leon Edwards versus Belal Muhammad 2. I don't care who Conor McGregor's fighting. At least I would be running like I'd be like all shaking and nervous, ready to watch him fight.
Any Conor McGregor fight is probably going to do over 1 million pay-per-view buys. But guess what? Guess what, guys? I don't get a cut of UFC pay-per-view. So all I want to see is the best versus the best. I want to see...
There's nothing wrong with that. There really isn't. And I understand that, because I also want to see that, but I also like the entertainment side. The best of the best is always great, and that's why one of the reasons why I love One Championship so much. You see that quite often, but I think it's wrong of him to really, really hate on the guys who do like the press conferences, who do want to see the Conor McGregors, who do want to see these big, massive stage-type fights, you know? I don't think that's okay.
The title holder challenged by guys who deserve to challenge for the belt. That's what I want to see. It doesn't matter what the UFC's pay-per-view sales are because I don't make any money off the UFC pay-per-view sales. I don't make any money off of that because they don't cut me a check. Okay, you can say, all right, well, Joey, if they do a bigger fight, you could do more videos and you can get more views on the bigger fights.
That's all true.
I don't care about that. And, you know, that's actually a disgusting part of MMA media and content creation in general, is a lot of the MMA media and a lot of, you could say content creators and Twitter personalities and whatever you want to, just every person that it applies to, any type of MMA media in general, they attempt to kind of shift the narrative and they don't ask any questions and they don't have any pushback based on these egregious, disgusting, undeserved WWES title shots because it directly puts money in their pocket. That's the truth. That is the truth. So maybe those people at least have an excuse. They can say, oh, well, if Conor McGregor gets a title shot against Leon Edwards, I'm just making up a hypothetical scenario.
He's got a care in the back pocket, though. Like, because he does benefit from these big Conor McGregor videos, right? He does. So I'd be very, very skeptical to believe this is his true attitude. It could be his true intentions, but he could be secretly happy about it.
Well, that puts more money in my pocket because I become more relevant, because more people are interested in the sport because of it. But I don't care. I don't care. We don't get some massive cut of pay-per-view sales. Why are we turning the sport into WWE? Give me Leon Edwards versus Belal Muhammad as the UFC 300 main event. It is an amazing matchup. It is a compelling matchup. It is two elite of the elite in the welterweight division. and it's better than any Conor McGregor fight that you could offer for UFC 300. So I hope that it comes to fruition. Ultimately, will it come to fruition? I think it will be on UFC 300.
I just don't know about the main event, because I'd be surprised if the UFC actually did go for that.
Just because you had Leon Edwards come out and say, I think he was at a soccer game, he said he's aiming to fight on UFC 300, but it's not official yet. He's kind of been weird about saying if he wants to fight Belal. I think the UFC does make that fight because it's the right thing to do, and it's hard to deny Belal his title shot at this point in time. But I really hope it's the main event. I hope it's the main event. I hope it's the main event. Bare minimum, I guess it'll be the co-main event. I really want those WWES fans to get pissed off because, oh no, the guy who deserves a title shot and is a compelling matchup for the champion is getting a title shot. That's what I want to happen at UFC 300.
But he's got to understand why people don't want Belal Muhammad to fight. He does deserve it, 100%. I just don't want to see him fight.
Let me know what you guys think down in the comments. By the way,
there we go. So, that was a really good video. I really do enjoy watching Joey's channel, although I disagree with a lot of things he says. But at the end of the day, look, it's as simple as this, because I feel like I'm the type of guy that Joey made this video yelling at, but I have a little bit more of a head on my shoulders. I like to think that, to be honest with you. I know that might sound a little bit arrogant, but I understand why Belal Muhammad is getting a title shot. I think he deserves a title shot, 1,000%. I just don't want it for UFC 300. I want it to be this big, grand card, and I just would like to see some more exciting fights on it. Another pay-per-view, 301, 302, I don't care. Belal Muhammad, Leon Edwards, main event. That's totally what it deserves. But MMA Joey gets really caught up in hating quite a bit of the MMA fan base, to be honest with you. The guys who do like Colby Covington, or especially the guys, and all I ask is that you don't assume anything of me, okay? I keep my political opinions to myself on this channel or any of the other channels that I have. So while I do like Colby Covington, the reason why I primarily like him is because of the Xbox 360 Live trash talk that he has going on. I find it quite entertaining. Well, it's stupid, don't get me wrong, but I enjoy watching it just because it's funny. So all I ask is, on either side, just don't assume where I stand politically. I want to keep that private. But he gets really, really caught up in assuming he obviously hates the people who agree with Colby Covington politically. And he does a lot to really hate on Colby and call Colby fans idiots. Like, I'm a Colby Covington fan, and I don't think I'm an idiot. I'm a big MMA fan, you know? So he gets really, really caught up on that. And for the reason he wants to see Belal Muhammad on the card is because people would hate it. And that will kind of make the Colby Covington's fans mad, because they assume that all the people who do like Colby Covington are right-wing, and then MMA Joey hates right-wing people and assume that right-wing people hate on somebody like Belal Muhammad. And that's where you get the whole thing. So he would be happy for those people to be upset because he thinks they're all idiots. I'm not saying that anybody's right or wrong when it comes to that type of stuff. I'm just saying that's where MMA Joey gets caught up on. Belal Muhammad absolutely deserves a title fight. I don't think it should be for UFC 300. Let me know what you thought about all this down below, guys. I would love to hear your opinion in the comment section. Thank you so much for watching this video, everybody. On the screen right now, if you'd like to continue watching the Clenbat channel, there'll be 2 or 3 videos for you to check out on screen. I will see you either there or in the next video, guys. Take care.